Alright, so as you guys know, I'm pretty obsessed with making things a lot lighter than they are stock, and so that's going to be the theme of this video. This is the newbie drone Hummingbird F4V3, so the latest version of the Hummingbird. Pretty good price on this one. I think it's like $89, so if you're looking for a pretty decent whoop, good price here. I did a review on this one already. I will link that in the video description. This is kind of sort of pretty standard in terms of like what tiny whoops are kind of like these days, although the people are kind of moving towards the lighter 0702 motors, which I'll talk about in this video, which is what this whole video is about. This one has the, I guess, the motors that were very popular last year, the 0802s. A lot of tiny whoops are still coming with those, and this one comes in like around 21 something grams. Yeah, so actually closer to 22, it's like 21.8, almost 21.9 grams. But in order to make this lighter, we're going to swap out the frame, the canopy, and the motors. So everything's going to be lighter. I don't know which version of the cockroach frame this is. I think this is the version 2 frame. So they did send me a bunch of their new version 3 frames. There's two types of the version 3 frames. So they come in different colors. And then this one here is the PC, you can kind of see here on the sticker, polycarbonate version, and the polycarbonate version weighs 3.95 grams. And then there's the other ones, I think like this one here. Yeah, this one is polypropylene. It's not labeled, but this is made from a different type of plastic called polypropylene, or PP. And this one weighs 2.95 grams. So I'm going to take all these out. We'll weigh them. I'll show you what the weights are of these different ones here. And then we're going to swap the canopy for one of these ultralight canopies. So instead of the goober canopy, they have these, I'm not sure if this is like resin printed or whatever. There's two types. There's the 30 degree and then there's a 40 degree. So it kind of depends on how fast you fly. I'm probably going to go with the 30 degree one. And then these weigh 0.71 grams according to the sticker here. So this is a basically minimal, just to protect the camera. It's going to be less protection for the flight control board, of course, in this situation. But you know, when you go a little lighter, you do give up. The trade-off is you give up a little bit of durability. And of course, the biggest weight gain or weight reduction will be in going to these lighter 0702 motors. These are the Flow 0702. So you got the 4 motors that come with the connectors. They have red and black wires. I think I'll just swap out the same ones on the Hummingbird. And you get some spare wire and some spare screws to mount them. And they should just be plug and play, because I think we have black here and red here. So the black and the red have to do with the way the motor rotates. So I'll just make sure that I use the same colored motor. So the red one here will go where the red one is over here. And of course I'll be using the same propeller. Alright, so here's a look at the motor. Obviously labeled Flow. They're Flow motors here, 0702 sized. And these are 29,000 kV. And it's too tiny to read. I'm not sure if it's going to come out of it right there, 29,000 kV. More and more, I'm seeing like 30,000 and above kV as being pretty popular. So really high kV means a lot faster. So your whoops are getting way, way faster these days, and shorter flight times. So we'll see that trade-off here. We're going to probably have a shorter flight time. You can see the motor wire here where the connector is soldered on. There's a PCB here for where the windings go to. So easy to swap those out. So overall, nice, solid-looking motor here. And just inside this little case here where the frames are, there are these little foam pieces here. I think that goes to on the underside of the motor, perhaps. I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to figure that out. And you also get some extra screws. And they also sent me this little piece of carbon fiber. It's like, I think it's 1 millimeter thick. And this is basically, it's for this frame, but it stiffens up the frame. So if you are a real stickler for having really stiff frames, then this is basically like a brace, and it comes with some extra screws there and some of those same foam pieces right there. All right, so I'm going to show you the weight of everything here before I start swapping things out. So here is the 0702 motor. It's 1.58 grams. Here's the 30 degree canopy, micro canopy, 0.79, so 0.71 on the sticker, 0.79 on my scale. The 40 degree one is under 0.71, it's 0.692. So interesting. This is the purple polycarbonate frame. Yeah, it's a little over 3.95. It's 4.01. Well, it's kind of moving around. It's like 4 grams. And I think this one is the white polycarbonate. Nope, this is the polypropylene. It's 2.92 grams. And this is a transparent white. And this is 2.90 grams. This is like a transparent black. And it's pretty heavy, a little over 4.1 grams. So not going to be using this one or the purple one. Going to just swap in. This is the lightest one here. This is the transparent white, 2.9 grams. Just for comparison here, this is the Meteor 65 airframe, 2.65 grams, so still heavier. The cockroach frame is still a little bit heavier than the Meteor 65 airframe. So I'm going to swap in the frame, the motors, and I'll go for the 30-degree canopy because 40 degrees is probably a little too fast for me. It should be pretty simple. I don't think I'm going to be doing any soldering, so just going to take this canopy off. I think the camera, there's a screw right there to take the camera out, and then I think the antennas for the receiver and the video transmitter, which are on board now. I'm going to have to figure out a way to secure those somewhere because this is being secured by this goober canopy. I take the props off, take these screws out, remove the motors. So I don't believe there's going to be any soldering. I'm just going to move over all the parts. Pretty straightforward, shouldn't take me too long.
A few moments later.
Alright, so swapped all the parts over to the new frame and new canopy. I did go with the 40-degree one here in this case because I could not get the camera to go into the 30-degree canopy. By all looks of it, it looks the same size and everything. I just could not get that PCB board inside there. It's got to go inside here, and then this part holds the camera lens, and that's how the camera stays in there. So not sure why that is. Probably could have heated this up maybe with a hotter gun or just pressed a little bit harder, but I didn't really want to force it, so I just went with a 40-degree. Obviously I'm going to have to fly a lot faster now. And yeah, got the new 0702 motors on here, same props. I ran the, in this case, the Express LRS receiver antenna. I ran out the side here. Not sure if that's the best place or not. I wanted to kind of keep it away from the video transmitter antenna. The UFL connector, which is on the board, which is going to be hard to see. It is right there. And the bottom part of this canopy, which is this part right here, is on top of that UFL connector. So I guess in that sense, this will secure this antenna down so it won't pop off, which is good, but it leaves a little bit of a gap, as you can see here, between the bottom plastic and the rubber grommet there. And I'm kind of bending this down a little bit here, same on the other side. So yeah, I'm not sure how much vibrations it's going to generate. We'll have to see in the flight footage later. Plug the camera back in over there. Props look like it's going to be fine out of the way. Just kind of just push this wire out of the way a little bit. But you can see the board here in the back is pretty exposed. If anything gets in here like a screwdriver, yeah, that'll probably damage it, but I don't know. Are you going to have a screwdriver on the wall or something and back into it like that? Probably not. I'm going to keep the PH 2.0 connector on here. I'm going to keep using the Newbie Drone 300 milliamp hour batteries for now. Just have the VTX antennas kind of sitting out here like this. Probably not the best. Probably best to maybe like zip tie it to the frame here, but I don't like having it like flat like this. I kind of having it like up. I might use some dental floss or something and tie it to the top of this canopy or something, but I don't want the antenna getting the field of view of the camera, so not really sure what to do about this one, what the best approach. I'm just going to leave it like this and let it kind of flop around and see if it ends up getting chopped up. I have a lot of these, so if it gets chopped up, no big deal. I'll just put another one on. Now, on the screws for the motors that go into for this frame, there's a bag with this foam and then these shorter screws. You want to use the ones that come with the frame to mount the motors. If you use the screws that come with the motors, those are too long. I'm not sure why they're so long, so they end up hitting the PCB. So you're not going to damage the windings, but you're probably going to break the PCB if you force it. In any case, the ones that come with the motor, the screws are too long for this frame. Use the screws that come with the frame. So I think that's why they come with the frame, because the plastic here is very thin to make it light. So basically the longer screws are too long, and they put the short screws in there. And those are actually the perfect size. All right, so here is how much it weighs now after swapping everything out. Quite a bit less, so it was like 21.8 before, now we're like at 18.37, 18.4, so more than 3 grams of weight drop, which is gonna, I think, probably improve performance overall. Let's see, because we're using a smaller motor here with a higher KV. I'm not sure what effect that's going to have on the flight time. We're not going to know until I actually fly it, which will happen a little later in this video. I'll show you that in a second. But in terms of how this weighs compared to some other builds I've done with the 07, 02 motors, like from Beta FPV, I think those are lighter. If I remember right, they were like closer to 17 grams, so maybe about a gram less than this. Maybe it's because I made those pushers and I'm not using this canopy here, so that could account for that weight difference. You don't necessarily need to use an antenna like this with this little metal piece there. That's extra weight there. So getting in that ballpark, it's definitely going to be better than, flying something that's closer to 22 grams. But of course, we are flying with smaller motors now. So, all right, so here is what it weighs with the battery, the 1S Nitro Nectar. It's 26.5 grams. So this makes a big difference in terms of its flying characteristics. And I've mentioned this in previous videos where I've made the transition from 0802 motors to 0702 motors. The reduction in weight does basically make it a lot more controllable. You have just feels more agile, more controllable. You'll see this in the flight footage. And this isn't quite as light as some of my other 0702 whoops, and I will have a roundup video after I do all my conversions. I'm still converting a couple more, but as I've made these conversions and moved to the smaller motor, this is the sort of things I've been discovering. The lower weight makes a really big difference in terms of controllability. Now in terms of flight time, it kind of depends on how aggressive you're flying. So if you fly them in the exact same way, which I try to do, in the previous setup here with the 0802 motor gave me roughly 3 minutes and 15 seconds of flight time. And then now with the 0702 motor, I'm getting slightly more flight time, like 3:25, 3:30. And I'm not killing the battery. Generally running it down to where the low battery warning kicks in. It's around 3.3 volts, and then it recovers back to about 3.5. I know that you can get more flight time if you go lower. I know guys that go down to like 2.8, sometimes 2.7, where it recovers back to like 3.1. I've seen that on a lot of videos where they're squeezing out maybe 4 minutes of flight time. Going moderately fast, and then if you're going pretty fast, you're going to be getting obviously a lot less flight time, probably 3 minutes. So it really depends on how fast you're flying, how aggressive you're on sticks, also the kind of track you're on, how many turns there are, etc. And I found that on this one here with a 40-degree camera mount, it's a little bit too much for my small area that I'm flying. So I'm going to try and figure out a way to maybe get that 30-degree camera mount to fit this camera. Probably need to heat it up with a heat gun or something like that, stretch it out a little bit. Probably going to be swapping it out. I think for my area, 30 degrees is going to be better. I do notice that going for the higher camera angle, you're using a lot more roll instead of yaw to turn. So that for some people that might be easier to fly than for others. It kind of depends on the pilot. And I also noticed that the amp draw was overall seemed like a little bit less, so which would make sense. That's why I'm getting a little bit more flight time on the same battery. And I did not change the battery connector. It's still the same PH 2.0 connectors, so possibly further gains could be made if you switch to BT 2.0 batteries. Anyway, I'm going to have a conversion video on my Mobeetle 6, probably over on my second channel, and then I'm going to be converting the Mobeetle 6 ELRS to a pusher setup. That'll be probably on the second channel as well, and I'll probably do a roundup video on all these conversions at some point, maybe sometime in late January, early February, because I'm still converting a bunch of them. I'm switching a lot of them over, and you'll see, well, I'm going to gather more of my thoughts on all these as I fly them more often. And basically, yeah, this is what I'm discovering, and just sharing my thoughts on these sort of conversions over to the smaller motor. Anyway, I'll link all the parts I use down in the video description. That's going to cover this video. Talk to you guys in the next one.